In this lesson, we will cover when to automate and orchestrate. Now, let's delve into the critical topic of automation or orchestration and their significance in the realm of secure operations. This lesson is designed to align with Objective 4.7, the Security Plus SY0-701 certification exam, where we will specifically focus on the other considerations as the sub-bullet. By the end of this lesson, you will have a deep understanding of when, why, and how to implement automation and orchestration effectively, taking into account various factors that influence decision-making in this domain. Automation and orchestration are indispensable tools in our modern information technology and cybersecurity enterprise environment. Automation and orchestration offers us the potential to streamline complex processes, enhance our security measures, and significantly improve our operational efficiency. However, their effective deployment does require that you consider several factors before implementing automation and orchestration in your organization, including the complexity, the cost, any single points of failure, the concept of technical debt, and your ability to conduct ongoing supportability of your automation and orchestration processes. First, we must consider the complexity of any potential automation and orchestration projects. You will find that automation and orchestration technologies work best when they are applied to repetitive tasks that are somewhat complex, since this makes a positive return on investment more likely than automating a simplistic process. So, our first step in determining if we should automate or orchestrate a given process is to consider how complex that process actually is and if it warrants the time, money, and resources required to be automated or orchestrated. For example, if you want to conduct a routine backup of your server's storage every evening, this would be a good use for setting up automation, but it is not complex enough to require the use of orchestration. On the other hand, if you want to create a runbook that can conduct an incident response on a given workstation when it is identified as being infected with malware, you will want to use orchestration, since this involves numerous complex tasks like logically isolating the affected machine from the network, imaging the workstation storage drive, submitting that drive image for analysis to the forensics team, formatting the workstation, installing a known good operating system image on the workstation, scanning the workstation to validate that it's no longer infected, and returning the workstation to the network. Now, this can all be conducted using an orchestration process that launches multiple different automation processes to complete all of these required tasks. Second, we need to consider the cost of implementing automation and orchestration. Cost is usually going to be a key factor in your decision-making process as to whether or not you will use automation and orchestration. While these technologies promise substantial long-term cost savings due to their increased efficiency, they often entail a large upfront or initial investment to create them in terms of hiring a service provider to create them or to pay a team of developers to implement them. Therefore, you should conduct a comprehensive cost-benefit analysis to weigh the expenses associated with the development, implementation, and maintenance of your proposed automation and orchestration solutions against the expected benefits and long-term savings. You should also make sure that you are considering all of the costs, including any hardware, software, personnel, and ongoing support costs that will be associated with the automation or orchestration. For example, at Down Training, when we initially began selling discounted exam vouchers to our students, we started this program using manual labor where a real human would receive the exam voucher order from one of our students, and then they would then assign an exam voucher to the student and email that voucher code to that student to fulfill the order. This worked well when we started the program because we only sold a few vouchers per week. But as our program became very popular, we quickly found that it was both cheaper and more efficient to fully automate the voucher fulfillment process, even though it wasn't an inexpensive thing to do. In our case, we began automating this process a few years ago using some simple automation that cost us a few $1,000s. Over time, as we continued to increase the number of vouchers we sold, we upgraded our system to a fully orchestrated system that is still in use today. But since we considered the cost, we began with a manual labor process and then implemented an automated process to lower the cost until it made financial sense to move to a more expensive and fully orchestrated solution. Third, you need to consider any single points of failure that may exist as you begin to implement automation or orchestrations in your organization's network. For example, many organizations forget to build backup systems or manual processes that can be used if automation or orchestration systems fail. This lack of foresight will create a single point of failure in your organization's network, since everything relies on your automation and orchestration. If your automations and orchestrations are not appropriately designed and maintained, these systems can disrupt essential business processes if they encounter an issue. For example, Even though we use our fully orchestrated voucher fulfillment system at Dion Training, we still have a manual process that we can use if our orchestration fails for any reason. This helps to mitigate the risk of a single point of failure by implementing redundancy and failover mechanisms, both technical ones and manual ones. Redundancy might entail backup servers or failover systems that ensure uninterrupted operations even if one component fails, or it could involve having a manual labor process that can be implemented if the automation or orchestration has failed. Fourth, we must consider the technical debt created by our automation and orchestration systems. Just like any other technology, our automation and orchestration systems can accumulate technical debt if not adequately maintained or if they become outdated. Technical debt refers to the accumulated cost and complexity of suboptimal or hastily implemented software solutions that need to be addressed or refactored in the future. This technical debt can impede efficiency and security. So, to mitigate the risk of technical debt, it is important that you conduct regular reviews and updates of your automation and orchestration systems. This ongoing maintenance helps to ensure that these systems remain aligned with your organization's evolving needs and technology landscape. For example, here at Dion Training, we had accumulated quite a bit of technical debt with our first voucher fulfillment automation system. So, as we moved to fully orchestrate the process, we had to spend a lot of time refactoring our existing code base before we could move forward with our orchestration project, which cost us a few weeks of effort and the associated labor costs that went along with the code refactoring process. Fifth, we need to consider the ongoing supportability of our automations and orchestrations. Long-term supportability is a vital factor to consider because as technologies evolve, our automation and orchestration processes must also be modified and adapted to meet this change in technology. As you invest in automation and orchestration solutions, ensure that your team possesses the necessary skills to maintain and adapt to these systems over time. Training and skill development are essential components of ensuring ongoing supportability. I have seen many organizations who outsource the one-time development for their automations or orchestrations, and then they're surprised when their systems stop working after a few weeks, few months, or even a few years. This is because most automations rely on the interconnection of various systems through the use of APIs and webhooks. But if any of these various systems are updated, upgraded, or replaced, it can break all of your automations. For example, at Dion Training, we have an automation that is used to pull any questions posted by our students about 4 times per day, and then we create trouble tickets in our own support system for our student support analysts to respond to these questions. If Udemy, one of our partners, updates their systems, this will sometimes break our automation process because they change the way that they receive questions from students and how they notify us of new questions being posted. So our development team has to update our automations to ensure that they are always working properly and are supported over time as other systems are changed and updated. So when should you automate or orchestrate a given process? Well, I have found that the most effective use of automation and orchestration is for tasks and workflows that are both repeatable and stable. You should first try to identify any processes within your organization that remain consistent over time. These processes are one of the ones that are prime candidates for automation and orchestration, as they can yield significant time and resource savings since they're repeatable and fairly consistent. If you have a task that is considered a one-off task, a highly variable or frequently changing task, then it's probably not a suitable candidate for automation or orchestration. For example, if you need to migrate 10 user accounts from one learning management system to another, it might take you 4 or 5 hours to code an automation to perform that migration. Or you can spend 30 minutes manually copying and pasting the information from one system to another. If this is a task that you perform every day, then it would definitely make sense to automate this process for the cost of 4 or 5 hours one time. And now that process that occurs daily can only take 1 or 2 minutes each time. Alternatively, is this a one-time task or a task that may be performed once every few years, then it doesn't make sense to spend the 4 or 5 hours to automate this task. And instead, you should just spend the 30 minutes every few years to mainly migrate those 10 user accounts. So remember, automation and orchestration offer immense potential to optimize secure operations, but their implementation should be guided by a strategic approach. By meticulously assessing the complexity of tasks, weighing the associated costs, mitigating single points of failure, managing technical debt, ensuring ongoing supportability, and focusing on automating or orchestrating stable, repeatable processes, organizations can harness the full power of these technologies. The decision to automate or orchestrate processes should be informed by the specific needs, resources, and circumstances of each organization. Additionally, it is important that you conduct continuous monitoring and adaptation of automation and orchestration systems to ensure that they remain effective and in alignment with your organization's goals.